the OMO Podcast. I'm Spencer Scott Holmes.
And I'm Ryan Dunnigan.
We're going back in time with one of those super original video game movies from a much different time, a much more innocent and free era where, you know, fun was in the air and it was always sunny, and well, even if you had a big old earthquake, you know what, you still dressed up and it was all bright and you got to go to your kung fu matches with your brother that doesn't look anything like you.
Yeah, or like even say it was all bright and sunny. Maybe because, you know, there's a bunch of like, you know, toxic radiation in the sky, so it always has that orange hue, but it's still sunny nonetheless.
But yeah, we decided, we're like, you know what, we haven't done in like almost 500 episodes. You know what we haven't done yet? It's the Double Dragon movie from 1994.
Now, here's the thing about this movie. On this show, we try to come in and do things we like. And I haven't seen this movie probably since the 5th or 6th grade. And I think that was the first time I actually saw the movie because I didn't even know it was like on Sci-Fi Channel, of all things. I was like, oh my god, there's a Double Dragon movie? And you know, we had the NES game and I didn't know the lore super well or anything, but I was like, okay, cool. I didn't know there's a Double Dragon movie. And I'm watching, I'm like, okay, I'm getting Super Mario vibes and all that, Super Mario movie vibes. And for those, this is your first time tuning in, we actually really like the Super Mario Brothers movie a lot, and not in a shitty, ironic way. We legitimately like that movie.
No, like a legitimate, it's in my top 10 favorite movies of all time way.
I don't know if it's in my top 10 personal favorite movies, but it's like definitely nostalgia for me, and we've been over it before, but yeah, maybe it's not entirely the most accurate thing, but it's still an entertaining movie nonetheless, and it's kind of interesting to see the way, like, all right, how do we turn the Mushroom Kingdom into a cyberpunk dystopian world kind of thing? Well, this one kind of pulls from that a little bit, and Double Dragon should be easier to convert to that. But rewatching it, I'm not gonna lie, I went into this being excited for the first time I've seen it in a while, and watching it, I'm like, you know what? It's not as good as I remember it being, and I unfortunately, it doesn't hold up for me. I didn't find myself liking this movie. And I'm not trying to be one of those assholes who comes in saying the same thing the rest of the internet is saying, but I was just, the whole time. There are things about it I like, and I like the vibe. It makes me nostalgic for this time period and this kind of aesthetic, which we don't really get in movies anymore. But I'm kind of like, let me say this real quick. I know I'm hogging the microphone, sorry. There's that, you know, when you look at a lot of 80s, like, post-apocalyptic movies, things like Mad Max or whatever, it's like, oh, wow, that's a good movie, but I'd like to see that updated so we can see something more on, like, a bigger scale, but matching that same kind of vibe and feel. And then we got Fury Road. I'm like, oh, this is what he wanted to make back in the 80s. I wish they could do that with more of these kind of, like, urban decay, beat-em-up brawler kind of things. You know what I mean?
No. Well, that's like one of my favorite things is like the look of Double Dragon, the movie. Like that is that total awesome thing. And it's almost like it sort of stems, I feel like, even more from like the Ninja Turtles movie. I feel like that's where we kind of get a lot of that, where it's just you get the 80s, 90s kind of punk rock looking guys kind of walking around with the big mohawks and so on. I mean, like your classic beat 'em up style things. But it carries that there, and I actually forgot this movie was like, it's a post-apocalyptic movie. Like, I kind of forgot about that part, and they drive around in, like, vehicles that are, like, made by Doc Brown, where you just recycle trash along the way.
Yeah.
It's like doing that thing that, like, everything, like, you know, any of, like, the environmental police would be like, you don't just throw anything into the burn barrel. That's why you can't have them anymore in California. It's because people just started throwing anything and everything they owned into the burn barrel to see what happened.
World's already ended. World War IV already happened. Fuck it. Let's just keep doing this. I mean, there's like a lot of like that. There's as far as like the world building it all takes place in. I'm not gonna lie. When it opens up, I was a little bit more intrigued at first, just because, you know, you see him in the karate match and all that, and there's like, you know, a massive earthquake happened, the big one. I think it's supposed to be because, you know, there's like one day the big one is going to hit Los Angeles. We don't know when or where, what it's going to happen. It's going to fuck things up. And I think that's what this is all meant to be. The big one finally happened. And you see like...
It's tied like into the same thing as like Escape from L.A.
Yeah.
Where it's just like half the city's gone, and now it's like it's new Los Angeles, you know. And
part of it's submerged underwater. There's like jacks holding up buildings.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I think that's kind of cool because I like that part where they're in the karate tournament and they're fighting. There's like kind of like an aftershock, and there's like this little fella up there with like a jack. And he's like, "Hold on!" He starts cranking it like he's in like a Mario Party mini game, and it's just like kind of goes up. People go, "Ah, looks good enough. Continue the match."
Like that kind of stuff. I like that kind of stuff, but I feel like they get a lot of that stuff out of the way very quickly. After that, they kind of drop a lot of that small world building thing. But I kind of like a lot of these kind of movies. I feel like dystopian, post-apocalypse movies. I feel like this Mario Brothers. I mean, RoboCop, which this definitely RoboCop definitely helped inspire this kind of thing. I feel like that stuff is all really good, and I want to see more of that in these kind of movies.
Yeah, well, because I like that kind of time. It reminds me of like Tank Girls like that, so Escape from L.A., you know. That part is really cool. I mean, like, granted, this is one of those movies that is like, it is ultra cheesy. Like, there's no getting around that. That's kind of like what it is, but I still feel like I always have fun with it because it does. I remember being even kind of cheesy as a kid, but like, you still kind of liked it because it was, you know, it was a video game movie. There was like 5 of them at like the time period, so you were grateful for everything you had. But you know, there is kind of that, and granted, the brothers are even like they got the corny jokes, almost like the one-liners, sort of like Three Ninjas, but not nearly as good as Three Ninjas.
Well, I can even handle the more cheesiness because I know at the time when this movie was made. And you can't always use this excuse for everything, but at the time when the movie was made, it's like, it's a fucking kids movie. It's a video game. Who likes this thing other than the kids, you know? So that's the mindset going into it. Even though it got a PG-13, they were hoping for a PG. Maybe they shouldn't have had so many shots of Alyssa Milano's ass. I don't know. But,
yeah. And her really, she had like the most weirdest outfit because she had like the tie-dye like gloves and then like long like they weren't even like boots. I don't know what the hell you call them. They were like
these like weird chap things kind of.
Yeah, just it might be just like that. It's that classic sort of 90s like you just put whatever you had in your closet together and that was your radical you outfit.
Like I honestly think, I know Double Dragon isn't like the biggest game anymore. And even when this came out, it was kind of still on its way out, sort of. I mean, games were coming out, but it wasn't like Mario Brothers. It wasn't like Street Fighter at the time. It wasn't Mortal Kombat. I like how I just put Mario Brothers in the middle of all like these dudes with like jacked muscles knocking each other into spikes, you know?
No, I guess probably when this movie was going into production, because, you know, if it came out in 94, you can kind of assume that it was started up in 92, give or take, maybe even earlier. So by that point, Double Dragon still would have probably been like because you know that when you think of NES games, that a lot of times comes up as maybe like one of the top 10, maybe top 20 ones that most people kind of think about. So probably still was kind of there, you know. And maybe it was the one where it's like, maybe it was just like even easier to get the rights to Double Dragon than say, well, see, even Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat probably wouldn't have been as big yet. I mean, by the time 94 rolls around, yeah, but by like when they were starting it, you know.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's also, I'm just thinking about like, I wouldn't mind seeing a movie, like someone like trying to do, it doesn't have to be Double Dragon, but maybe something like, you know, something like Streets of Rage or Final Fight, kind of like, that thing where it like that urban decay quasi post-apocalyptic thing, you know what I mean? Like I wouldn't mind that, but with more of an updated budget and all that. Like Streets of Rage 4, I was playing that. I was like, make the movie to this. It doesn't have to be live action, just like an animated series or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and I'm actually kind of surprised because I was kind of looking like, there's not a Double Dragon anime or anything out there, which is kind of weird.
Yeah, there's a Saturday morning cartoon. But,
oh, yeah. That's right. There is that one. I did kind of forget about that. But you know what's the other interesting thing is that Paul Dini is the story writer of this.
I remember sitting there watching the credits and just thinking nothing was going to pop up. Just like, what? You never know. Someone might be involved. I saw Paul Dini's name, like, the Paul Dini? Then I looked it up, and I'm kind of wondering what... I got a feeling like his original draft was way different because he wrote a draft, and the director was like, I ain't feeling this. And then he went and hired somebody to go and rewrite it, so he just got a story credit. So I guess because he laid down the foundation. Now, who knows? It was not his early days, because everyone assumes, like, Batman the Animated Series, but by then he's already been working in animation for at least 10 years before then. Mm-hmm. So, maybe even the 70s, but I want to say it was the 80s at least. So... by then, like, who knows, maybe it wasn't the same. I'm just wondering what that would have been. Like, oh, it's actually kind of a deep character dive. Like, kids are stupid. They won't fucking get it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's weird too because it's like the director who did it. Like this guy's like only done music videos. Like that's like all his in there. And then it's like, hey, you get to direct a movie, cool. And then after this movie, he goes back to just doing music videos and doesn't do anything else after.
Well, that happens sometimes. They'll like get like a director who just did ads or music videos, and then suddenly they like, let's give him a shot in the movie, and they do like one, maybe two movies, and they just go back to that. You know, like, ah, fuck, it wasn't for me. I think that was the Bulletproof Monk guy. All random things to bring up.
Yeah,
I was in a Chow Yun Fat mood the other night, and I was just looking around like, oh yeah, Bulletproof Monk.
I got that movie on Blu-ray.
Well, it's also like one of those things like I'm like, oh, what, this movie's not so. I mean, I think in concept there's things about that movie that's not so bad. But when you get to the underground like street punks, like, look, it's me, Mr. Funktastic. Like, oh fuck.
Shit, that movie's all. That's like a step up from maybe Double Dragon.
It is a step up from Double Dragon, but I forgot about the wacky like underground subway people.
It's almost in that because it is kind of cheesy and corny as well too, and it's got Sean William Scott in it, so you got like.
Yeah, no, I enjoy that movie still. I just it's better than the original ending because the original ending of that movie, they went to that gang like, hey man, look, we got to stop the neo-Nazis. Can you help us out? Sometimes you do things for money, but other times you do things just because it's the right thing to do. You know, just like. And those guys come in and help out. They suddenly become characters out of nowhere. Like, oh, fuck this. But I'm glad they went with the ending where they're just like, no, get these guys out of the way. They fucking suck.
Yeah, exactly.
But I could honestly see that. Like, if somebody said, oh, that was actually based off of an obscure video game. I'm like, oh, I could see that. Like, a obscure, like, 90s brawler. But it was actually based on a random comic book. So.
Yeah, that's kind of the weird part there. He's like, oh, it's one of those weird comic book movies that like you always kind of forget about. But yeah, kind of going back in the Double Dragon and whatnot. I mean, like for the most part, they got the solid main characters in there. You know, of course, you got Jimmy and Billy and whatnot. And I like how like they're brothers, but they must have like a different mother or something like that. Because one guy's like Hawaiian and one guy's like almost like a preppy Italian boy.
I honestly think if they like played around with it, like. The lady that raised them, that was like maybe they're just like brothers just by like, you know, their adopted brothers.
That's their sister too. Like it's like there's a Chinese lady, there's the Hawaiian boy, and then there's the Italian boy. And
why just to be funny if they're just like, wait, you're not our real mom? It's like, well,
I'm like 10 years older than you guys.
Have you looked in the fucking mirror? Oh, I thought you were my mom. Like, no, I picked you up on the street and raised you and trained you. I thought you left me on the street and you're like, oh, I forgot this shit.
Yeah, exactly.
That would be the Jimmy character. Which one would Billy? Is Billy the main character or is Jimmy more? Who's player one? I forgot.
Billy's the Italian boy, and then Jimmy's the other dude. The guy who actually plays speaking of recent podcast, he plays Richard Dragon in the Batman Soul the Dragon movie.
Oh, that was Sam? I didn't know that.
So yeah, so there's a Batman connection in there no matter what.
Well, I'll say going back because I sidetracked myself and went on a different tangent. You're saying that like the thing is cheesy and you found it cheesy as a kid. I remember finding it cheesy as a kid, but I guess my bigger problem with the movie is it has a tendency to like I can understand the cheesiness because even real talk, the Mario Brothers movie's cheesy, but. There's enough like different kind of ideas. The imagery is very interesting and fun to watch. It's kind of interesting if you're a fan of the games and you kind of were there when this thing came out to kind of compare and contrast and see like I actually kind of see what they did to substitute this or did the sci-fi version of this thing from the game. Where this it didn't really. It's a martial arts movie, but all the martial arts action scenes. Or like have so many cutaways and there's like it's usually one uppercut and one kick and that's it. And there's even parts where you can tell they want to do this elaborate thing, but they keep on having these cutaways so they can like get the stunt double in there or just cut it from a different angle. So it was just one of those things that really stood out to me.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of kicks, especially some of like the non-major characters. They have some kicks and some punches in there that go like, well, that was a pretty weak looking. it. Like, you know what I mean? Put some effort in it. But then it's weird because then it's backed up. Then there's some stunts that are in this movie where it's just like, well, that's pretty impressive. Like the part, this is like way later on, but when those guys are like coming through the window at like Marion or whatever is like, you know, refugee like Nintendo kind of club below and whatnot.
They're playing like at the rec center from Carissa Explains It All.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, there's some of those dudes jumping in from like, you know, the 15 stories up window, or maybe it's not that high, 10 stories up window, and they take some falls in there, and you're like, well, there's an impressive stunt. So what'd you guys do? Just buy a bunch of guys that could like fall from a long distance? But you just need some more martial arts fellas in there for, you know, something called Double Dragon.
Yeah, because there wasn't a lot of martial arts in it. And I think that if the action held up more, then I would be a little bit more forgiving, because I like the aesthetic, even the weird goofy shit. Like there's that part when they're trying to get away from the one, like, I know people say it's so cheesy, all like the evil looking punk rockers. Like it looks like the video game. And
yeah.
I think it was something that happened so much in the 90s and early 90s and maybe late 80s that people kind of roll their eyes at the aesthetic of like street punks with crazy mohawks and tattoos on their faces. But now we're at the point where we don't see it as much anymore. So it's like, oh, bring it back just a little bit. And, you know, and so when they have that whole chase, which that chase really remind me of like a little bit of Back to the Future with Mario Brothers, the movie, the whole like police chase, that whole part, I thought that was actually like, that part was actually fun and kind of interesting. But then once they kind of get to the hall, like, oh no, look, it's the kids from the rec center. We got to get out of here. And you're like, what are they doing? They're like in tie-dye. They're in like tie-dye graffiti. And they're just like, all right, we just got to stand in the wall right here and hope somebody comes walking in the alley.
Yeah, no. That part is kind of weird. But like, yeah, no, like, I like that punk rocker kind of like over the top. Like that reminds me of like Ninja Turtles. Like that look to me is like one of my favorite looks in like all of cinema. And you just don't see it past like, you know, late 80s into like early 90s and so on. And I feel Double Dragon actually captures the aesthetic very well there and so on. But that is almost a turning point. Right about when they get to about there, the movie does kind of start to peter out a little bit. You know, I think it still keeps it like intrigued enough to kind of go on. But I think that's the thing, is if the martial arts in here was at least just like turned up just a hair bit more even.
Turtles level.
Yeah, exactly. I think that like that would probably save this movie a lot more, because then you could get by with like almost like the corny lines, you know, and like just the other weird stuff, because that almost is kind of fun. I don't know, I kind of like that. But I will say I totally agree with you with the martial arts stuff. Definitely, there's something missing.
Robert Patrick, like, well, before you're a metal man, now you got your Paper Mario powers.
Yeah, exactly. But I will say Robert Patrick, because I think, you know, as you're saying with the Mario Brothers one of the things I think that always keeps Mario Brothers very strong, at least in my eyes, is because you got like 3 super actors in that movie. You know, you got Bob Hoskins, John Leguizamo, and Dennis Hopper. So no matter how weird and stuff it can be, those guys can all chew the scenery like nobody's business. Where in this one, you just got really Robert Patrick, and he gets to chew the scenery, and he does like he does do that thing where it's like, yep, this is not the movie I was expected to show up to, but I'm gonna make the most of it.
Well, I'm wondering how much of I wonder if you read Paul Dini's script and they changed it partway through, or the script looked a lot more elaborate, because that sometimes happens. You hear these stories where they read the script they love, and they get on the set like, oh, this looks different.
Yeah, well, because that's what he said. He literally said somewhere that he's like, yeah, I read the script. I'm like, oh, this is gonna be great. And he's like, and then when we get there, it's just like, it just didn't pan out the same way. He's like, I tried to do my best though, make it out to what it is. And he's like, I still look at my character and like, I'm still looking at the stuff that I did. You know, I got my own personal cut at home. It doesn't show anything but me.
The movie's only 10 minutes long, yeah,
but it's pretty awesome. And I will
it's
say,
probably like 20 minutes long. If you just take his scenes, probably 20 minutes long.
Yeah. And even like, because he's got kind of like, yeah, definitely like the Paper Mario kind of things like that. But I will say, those special effects for that time period of 93, 94, now granted, I know it's not Jurassic Park or something, but you don't have a whole lot of other movies of high bar caliber to like kind of stand up to. They're not too shabby for what they were. Like, I thought they were going to be a little bit more cheesier, and there was a few of them in there I was like, that's actually kind of good for that time period, you know? Like, you know, I was a little bit more impressed, I thought, with the special effects, and I always thought that was going to be the more cheesier part.
I wanted to say, this is going to jump ahead here, but jumping over to Alyssa Milano for a second.
Mm-hmm.
Because, you know, she's the teenage girl kind of running the Power Corps? Is that what it's called? The whole, like, revolutionary group?
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's kind of funny because she has the dad at home like, God damn these like street punks always mess up, but Power Core's doing good. Ah, they're just like the rest. And then it's just like,
bunch of dirty terrorists.
Has she been wearing a wig this whole fucking time? Like, was there not a moment when he realizes that she's leading the whole thing? She's like, wait, you're fucking blonde?
yeah, there is that part, like you know what I mean, like. All of a sudden, he just kind of recognized her off the bat, because I thought that was part of her disguise and so on. And obviously, well, I guess he's a good detective then.
Not that good if he's been living with the leader of his daughter's the fucking head of like a terrorist cell or whatever.
He's probably the dad that sees his kids for 5 minutes in the morning and 5 minutes at night. Let's be honest. He's in charge of the police force in this like corrupted Los Angeles area. I bet you he's working like 24/7 all the time.
He's probably just sitting there, like, he looks at the kid, like, how's the cereal? You like it? Good. All right. Done parenting for the day. Gets up and walks out the door.
Exactly. Well, the funny thing, too, is, like, it's, because, like, the Marion character or whatever, like, in Double Dragon, it's got, like, one of the, almost the funniest intros to any video game, because you just don't expect it. I don't care who you are, no matter what year it is and whatnot, because the game just literally starts up, it's just, like, there's, like, your character stand there, Jimmy and Billy, and then there's, like, these thugs just walk up and then just gut punch this woman as hard as possible in the stomach, throw her over their shoulders, like, we're fucking out of here. And I just think like that's who that Marion character is. Of course, they're like change. Maybe the Paul Dini script just started off like that.
That's the first 10 minutes of the movie. Just that. They really hold on those it's a lot of slow motion, a lot of punching. Like, wow, Paul Dini, you are really. We don't understand. I was really trying to do a deep dive, try and make you really hate these guys. Like, I know. Well. You think we'll still get PG? Maybe. It's the 90s. Yeah.
It's like, I even like in the Double Dragon Neon game that came out like in like 2012.
They still have it.
They have it, and then they like upped it even like, because they make it like almost like more intense of a punch. Like, when you think they would have, well, I guess it's 2012. They would have been pulling punches yet. But they made it even more intense, and that was always makes
I just think it's like, there's a thing, and like I don't remember which one it is, but if you're playing as both of them, and then you get to the end, and then you're like, well, there's two of us left, and there's only one woman, and you have to like battle your brother to the death for the woman. Like, I almost wish that this movie had that. Like, once they like, I feel like if they do the reboot, and you gotta lean into, don't do the whoa man, we're just a couple of wacky kids who happen to be the chosen ones. Do the thing where they're just too angry, just like they make God of War, they make Kratos look like a bitch. You know what I mean? They're just like filled with testosterone, just veins bulging from the neck, like at all times. And then once they finally get to the end, they're just like, the woman is born. Just like full on like.
They gotta be like
these guys jerk off to
years
Roadhouse.
old, but they're so fucking jacked. They're like Baki or whatever. Like they're unbelievable. They do not. There's no way that like that kid could have like so much muscle and skill and so on. But that's how these guys should just be, and all they know is like the fight and whatnot. Well, because that's the weirdest
being
part.
Like a
it's like
16-year-old kid
game,
with a.
I think that the girl's only Billy's girlfriend, but maybe it's just like after a while, Jimmy's like, "Fuck it, I went through 4 levels of fucking hell. I want some now too."
What's the one where the caveman, where whoever got the bigger score, like the girl went to the guy with the bigger score? Which game?
Joe and Mac. Joe and Mac. Well, like Joe, I don't know which one came out first, but like Double Dragon's the version. Like, no, we're going to the 9th degree. We're going to the 10th degree. It's not enough that he wants the other woman. He has to kill the man of the woman. He's like, you gotta kill your brother. I know that I don't want to use Japanese, and one of you has blonde hair. It's like a Ryu Ken thing if they were related, and we don't really know how that is, but.
I honestly think they should have done that, but. That's just me, We'll see what. Maybe we'll get a reboot. I mean, there's nostalgia for everything now. This movie
is like it's the same way the whole way through, but at the very end, it gets like ultra like it's like for some reason all this serious martial artsness comes into it. There's like a 20-minute fight scene, and for some reason it's raining hard, and it's acid rain because it's smoggy New Los Angeles or whatever, and they're out there just like fighting, just like slobber knock, just like a beat down, like They Live style, where they just fight for like legitimately like over 10 minutes.
Going back to Baki, it's like that literal, like just someone gets like their arm ripped off, but he's just like, I can still stab you with the bone of my arm, or whatever. Just some crazy ass shit like that. Some dude coughs up a grenade or whatever, So, like, or like, the point where like someone gets like Roadhouse, like throat ripped out. He's gripping onto his throat. He's still breathing.
So I can still fight.
I can still fight. Then like one of them like gets kicked out into the acid rain and just like he's melting away, just staring at him, and just gives him a nod like you're the better man. And then this other guy has like maybe a single tear like dreading down his cheek. He's like just sucks it back up.
Just gets like hardcore brutal.
Not even a dying man can see me cry.
No, that would be pretty darn sweet to have it like that. When there's kind of like other action scenes, I guess there's like that part where they're like on the boat and they got that ginormous explosion. Like I will say that boat explosion when they're out there and they just like blow up like a section of like whatever the river part is over there, and that's a pretty impressive explosion they got going there. I don't know. It's like I was wondering like, oh, but then again, that's like the time period where you got to have a big explosion. If you don't have a big explosion, what's the point of your movie then?
Well, because that was they filmed that part in Cleveland, and that whole part apparently like I guess they didn't give enough heads up to the local authorities that there's going to be that much of an explosion or that much of a scene going on there. So people they had like over like 200 calls going into the 911 saying the fucking World War III is happening down by the docks.
Yeah, exactly. There's some crazy jacked up steroid freak with a mohawk running around.
Yeah. A skinnier one, just this guy's a skinnier version of him, and he was crying that he got his eye poked, which is weird. I don't know what that guy was doing there.
How did he get his eye poked?
I do like that there's like the one big black guy's like, it's okay, man, come here. Like, he just like... And then, like, I kind of chuckled a little bit on that part because the guy's acting so hard. Like, one of the last, just this big, jacked black dude. Like, other than the guy that has the testicles on his fucking neck.
Yeah, pretty much.
Other than him, he was probably the tallest guy in that movie. So he's like, "It's okay, man, get over here."
Yeah, we all get our eye poked once in a while for looking through the people. Go ahead. You're not supposed to look through the glory hole. Just letting you know. I do like the part where they speed of that other guy with the mohawk, like when they're doing that chase scene and whatnot, and they're going through town and they're burning trash and whatnot. There's a part where like they can't see because their big old semi truck thing gets covered up, and then they're like looking down at this little monitor. But there's a lot of shots that go back and forth where it's just like a medium shot too on the guys, and they're just both looking down and going. It just almost looks like the two guys just jerking each other off.
I was gonna say that. Yeah, I was gonna say like I forgot. Yeah, because they get blind from the newspaper. It looks like they're just. It's just I forgot about that part. Yeah.
And like totally out of context, you'd be like, "What are those two guys doing?" Like, oh, they're looking at a screen down below.
It's like that Walker Texas Jr. Is that what's his name? Wheeler Walker Jr. Wheeler Walker Jr. Yeah, like Wheeler Walker Jr. song.
Yeah,
couldn't find anyone to fuck, so
they
give each other a high five.
But that was just what I thought right there. So you just need to like loop that song with that.
No, there's the other part that actually stood out to me, which is I know they did actually find a way to get some characters from the games in there, but I'm not expecting it to be like super accurate in the 90s, nor am I don't know enough about Double Dragon really to get in there. I know the Robert Patrick character is made up. He's not in it, or maybe they took elements of different characters and named him something else. You know what's the weird thing though is there's a Neo Geo Double Dragon fighting game that came out like right afterwards, and it's almost like sort of based off this movie. So the Robert Patrick character is the main boss in that game. Huh. All right. Well, I heard that was a Japan only release or something. I heard details of that, not the whole thing, but I heard something like. I know that in one of the games it's actually kind of fun. I remember me and Josh sat down for a while and played that one, and like it's not as good as Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat or any of those other ones, but like it's still it still was a fun fighting game all in all. One of them, I know one of them did the thing. I thought I was referencing a different one here. I know one of them did a thing where it just took screenshots from the movie and put it in the background of like one of the later games.
And that's the same Neo Geo one.
Oh, same Neo Geo one? Okay.
So they kind of had that, and then they had like the chick with like the whip, like that's from like the first game. She's in there.
Yeah, she's in it. The guy who got turned into a mutant, he's in there. I know. I want to say like that whole gang that's after him. Like a couple guys in that gang are from. I think even the scrawny little guy, like he may have just been a thug that model after a thug in the game or something like that.
Yeah, no, I think that they have some of those ones where it's kind of like, hey, this is kind of like this guy and so on. So it almost gives you a feeling that like somebody obviously played a bit of the game. They got a Bobo
or
in
flip
there.
the instruction manual. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a Goomba. That's a Koopa Troopa. Okay.
That's a Goomba. Dude, you're doing the Double Dragon movie. Yeah, what's the fucking difference?
These kids will be happy either way.
Yeah, I feel like it's that point. Like that's the thing is I feel like the people putting it together, it doesn't have like that. It just feels like they kind of missed the mark on other stuff. Maybe the guy was just like, he only, the director, he only made music videos. We don't know what else he did, Like we talked about like it's a mystery.
He
did a Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, or I guess it's Crosby, Stills and Nash video. Like, I'm sure there wasn't a whole lot of flying kicks in that music video.
Did he do a Crosby, Stills and Nash video?
I did. I saw it when I was flipping through just all the things he did. I just wanted to see if he did any other movies. And then I was like, oh shit, he did that. He did a David Bowie one.
See this. David Bowie. Well, he's been with some big people then. Shit.
Yeah, so I mean, yeah, he's no slouch in the music video department.
Dolly Parton.
But do you think Dolly Parton was
Willie Nelson
throwing any punches?
Yeah. Maybe. I mean, I've never seen in her videos. I listen to her music from time to time, So, Genesis, good for you, I guess. Yeah, right. I'll be honest, not a big Phil Collins fan.
Yeah, I know.
Don't hate him.
I kind of agree, dude.
Ray Charles. He did fucking Ray Charles. He's dealt with some fucking... Oh, my God. Yeah. Debbie Gibson, Crosby, Stills, Nash. Yeah. New Kids on the Block.
Hey, that's got Marky Mark's brother in there.
Yeah. That's going to be funny, though, going from, like, he must be friends with Phil Collins, or Phil Collins liked him. The Wasp. Yeah.
Yeah, so he's got a lot of stuff.
Michael Jackson, yeah.
There's all kinds of huge stuff in there and whatnot. So it's like I felt like he just kind of gave the Double Dragon thing a go. And it's like, oh, well, I guess it's, it works out the way it does and so on.
Yeah, I get that. Sometimes it's just, yeah. I mean, you just stick to what you know. And I guess if you come into a movie where the studio probably didn't really care about the property and they're probably just looking to make a quick buck off it, and a first-time director probably doesn't always have like most the creative control or pull power. So, and this is also coming at a time. Well, he directed music videos. Okay, he's not really part of actual cinema. That whole kind of view that people have.
Yeah,
especially back then.
Well, yeah, because like back then, it's like music videos would have been pretty like that would only been around for like 20 years or so. I mean, I think you can find music videos in the 60s, but, it's not like there was MTV or something like that. So, yeah, these guys might have been kind of like, it's because it's a Universal movie, so there might have been a little bit of, like, under your thumb goof type stuff to him. But, whatever. Like, it still can be kind of fun at the end of the day and so on. I think another interesting factoid I did find is I like how when this movie came out on Blu-ray, it made $1.3 million as of 2020 in revenue from that Blu-ray release.
How it made how much?
1.3 million.
1.3 million?
So, like, that's a lot. I obviously, like, so I think that's the thing is, like, Double Dragon still carries that hard nostalgia for the, there's just a certain age of that, like, if you were in that time period of, like, Ninja Turtles and Three Ninjas and Mario Brothers, Surf Ninjas and all that kind of stuff like that, like, I feel like it does hit home well for that kind of thing. And it is kind of, I will say, it is one of those movies that is kind of, it's fun to watch, but, like, not like it's really the greatest movie, but it is still kind of fun and entertaining. And you will get kind of, like, some chuckles here and there, and the aesthetic looks kind of cool and so on. I mean, of course, there's goofy, weird moments and whatnot there, too, but, like, that's never anything that, like, totally breaks it. I think it's just one of those ones. You just need more, like, kung fu action. Almost like that first scene when they're in the underground fighting tournament. You need more stuff like that.
Yeah, well, even going back to this, and I know we already mentioned this, but, like, there's small little world building things, and Mario Brothers has a lot of this too. Like you said, the whole thing with the jack, how the jack was kind of holding up the roof, and people like looked at it, they're scared from like, oh, okay, it's fine. They just go back to as you were, you know. Mm-hmm. But after that, the jack was kind of the only real like thing, like major element that kind of stood out.
Yeah.
As far as the world building thing, and they'd have some of like half like, you know, the cityscapes that were partially sunken, which that was cool. And then there's like, you know, there's even, you saw like a motel, like an island motel, like out in the middle of the ocean or out in like in a bay or something like that. Like, who the fuck's going out there? You know, so there's some cool imagery like that, but at the same time, it's just, I didn't think there was enough of that. And if there was more of that, it would probably be a little better. And if the martial arts action was better, then all would be forgiven. I mean, really, you can make one of the hokiest, cheesiest things possible, but if you're making it visually interesting to look at, and at least the action is awesome, then I think you can kind of get away with a lot more.
Yeah, exactly. It's almost like, I feel that is the kind of the key thing. If you're going to do a martial arts movie, you can't cheapen out on the martial arts part. Like, you can cheapen out on everything else. Everything else can be cheapened out on, but you got to make sure that you have at least a handful of good, you know, martial arts scenes and so on, you know, to really back it up, you know. But yeah, there is those kind of neat scenes throughout it. There's like a handful of like really cool kind of almost even like background kind of like matte type paintings or whatever that they sort of had in like the 90s that look really cool, you know. But I think it's also, as the movie kind of goes on, like once you get to like the last like 40 minutes of it, they get to that part where it's like, oh shit, the budget's wrapped up, so we gotta just hang out in the rec center and we're gonna hang out in Robert Patrick's tower.
Yeah, that thing kind of happens, and like, can we find? Look, what can we do? Oh, we're gonna have a scene where they're crawling through the vents. Oh, those are always super cheap. Great idea, you know. There's also the whole part where going back, there's something about you saying with the rec center that popped in my head. Oh yeah. This movie does the thing where a lot of, I mean, some movies still do it to this day, and back then it's like, okay, all right, I don't think you need to do it, but back then there's a little bit more, I guess, I don't know. When movies still to this day do this, it pisses me off, but they get their iconic suits at the very end. Mm-hmm. That's something that always fucking annoys me. Like, I know it happened to Mario Brothers, but I still think we at least have the whole last act of the Mario Brothers where they're in the suits. This right here, it's like they get in their costumes within like the last like really 5 to 10 minutes of the movie.
Yeah, it's literally the part where like Robert Patrick's pretty much almost already defeated, and then they get their suits. Because I guess this is the whole like story concept that sort of wraps this whole movie together, anyways, that we never really explained on. But like, if you never saw Double Dragon, there's these like ambulance that are like the Double Dragon, and like, you know, these guys, their father and Robert Patrick were, I don't know, we're out fucking like doing some Indiana Jones shit or something. I'm not too sure, but they were buddies at one point in time, and then Robert Patrick's like, whoa, you know, he's like, we should take this and do some fucking cool shit with it. And then, you know, of course, the Double Dragon Boys' dad was like, that belongs in a museum. And Robert Patrick gave him, was like, you belong in a museum. And he literally put him in a museum, and that was fucking it. Took one half of it. Somehow, some way, the boys, like, surrogate Chinese mother, got the other one.
His mail order bride. They just met.
Yeah, you know. I'm just feeling like the dad must have had like a lot of like wives, because none of his kids look like the same.
I want to say that there's a line of dialogue where she used to work for Robert Patrick.
Oh yeah,
and she saw what he was doing and she escaped. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe they were all together. It was just this weird like,
love triangle. Then a Savages thing going on.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and then the ambulance got in between, and that was it. They're like, they couldn't handle it anymore, and so on. Yeah. So like, these things create powers, and you learn how to use it. Like Robert Patrick, when he pretty much rubs it like a little hamster, it fucking turns him into Paper Mario, and he gets all these like abilities where he can like turn into people's shadows and like jump into other people's bodies and control them and whatnot. And then we don't learn for like the longest time what the other one that Billy's holding on the hold for a while, but like that gives him like invincibility.
Yeah, like then there's at the very end, like their mom, surrogate mom, comes in, like Obi-Wan Kenobi's their way, like, I knew you could do it! Like, you could do this the whole time? Where the fuck were you? She showed up after they already got the fucking amulet.
You know, speaking of, like, going back to her, you know what's another... Because here's the thing, there's some great set pieces in here. The other one that's kind of neat is, like, the Double Dragon Boys' home. That thing's actually kind of a cool idea that they live in an old movie theater. Like, just an old... Like, probably like a movie theater that was converted over from, like, a theater, like, you know, stage acting, to being, like, a movie theater. Then, of course, after the earthquake, it's just kind of abandoned. But, like, that kind of idea of just, like, hey, I live in a cinema and whatnot like that. Like, you know, think about it. Like, if you're a 10-year-old kid, like, especially, like, then, it's like, dude, like, living in a movie theater, that's, like, the best place you could possibly be at.
No, there is some cool, that was kind of a cool concept, because, you know, you see they're on the stage, and they kind of have it just laid out like it's their living room. They got this whole theater facing them. So there's something kind of, like, visually cool about that. I mean, you got so much theater there, you think they use some of the other rooms. Like, I'm gonna go to my room, just all pissed off, stomps, like, all the way down the hall. You see him going up the stairs, stomping, up to the second story, off into another room, to the concession stand.
Exactly. It's like, that must have been where The Last of Us 2 got their idea that, like, hey, Ellie can live in a theater. Just like the Double Dragon movie. But yeah, like, that part I thought was kind of neat. Just like the whole way it's sort of designed. So, like, somebody really went to town on that part. They put more effort into their design team than they did into, like, their choreography and martial arts.
Well, I guess the thing about that is there's also, like the design and the production and like that aesthetic. It's cool when it's there, but there's also moments where it just really kind of goes away. Like you said, like, for a minute we're kind of, you know, we're in the streets and we're in the cool backdrop. We have all these, like, methed out punks running around stirring shit up, and then, you know, oh, we're just at a basic house, just a normal looking basic house. Nothing really interesting about it. Oh, we're over at the rec center now. We're at the rec center, and then, you know, so there's some things that just kind of, like, and they spend a lot of time at those places, and they get to, like, you know, the bad guys' office, and they spend a lot of time there for a minute. So after a while, just like that you could see, like, where the budget kind of was limited at.
Yeah, it is, you know, even like the rec center, it's not saying that's bad, because that's actually really cool design too. It has that look of, like, there's, like, skateboard ramps in there, basketball hoops, you know, and arcades and spray paint and graffiti. I mean, no different than, like, in Ninja Turtles, there's a bunch of kids down there selling, you know, cigarettes and, like, hustling pool games, or, like, even, like, in Hook or something like that.
Wow, even the ones in Hook, or even the ones in, like, Ninja Turtles, that center just stood out more to me. Maybe it's because all the dark colors and all that, and just stood out and
whatnot.
Had a lot more neon. That one was too bright. You know, it wasn't god awful or anything, but I will say, I think it's funny though. Like, we're gonna need distraction to get into the bad guy's evil lair. Well, how are we gonna do that? We're gonna do what we do best: shred and piss off some security guards. And they're just, like, a bunch of, like, you know, like, at that time, every boomer's, like, worst nightmare, which is, like, kids on rollerblades,
kids on wheels,
skateboards.
That's really it. Like, kids on wheels. It's the damn kids coming on their wheels with their razor scooters and their inline skates and their boards of skating and their bicycle BMXers.
And their LA gears.
Yeah, they're all lighting
light up when they jump off. That light up when they jump off their skateboard, keeping us up all night.
Pumping up their Nikes right next to my head. But yeah, there's that little part where, like, they just kind of come, and that always just reminds me of, like, such, like, the 90s moment, just like, whoa, just, like, guys coming skateboarding, like, sliding around, you know what I mean, like, got their multicolored Converse on, like, one dude just, like, kick flips over, like, a security guard, like, oh!
I'm only paid minimum wage. I'm only here because he has my family, and he's gonna kill him if I don't take the job. Like, whatever, bro. Ollie over this fat fuck.
You know, what are you gonna do about it? And then it's just like, so you got that. See, that part's actually even kind of cool too. It's weird. It's like there's all this cool stuff, and it's just like it just needs to be tied together with that one. Just some more punching and kicking, like shit.
Watching this, I feel like they say it was just a kind of a go-to phrase a lot. Now it just sounds so kiddish, and I guess it was even kiddish back then. But like, butthead, that was like, I remember in the '90s that was a popular like name to call someone. But this movie uses the fuck out of it.
Well, it uses that like I'm just kind of like they're all like those kid swear words because I think of a lot of movies like Ninja Turtles has and their Three Ninjas uses a lot of that where like you just use all those like almost kind of like soft. There's no actual swear word in there, but they are kind of like pretty much just as offensive, if not more offensive, when you really think about like if you literally call someone a butthead and you start to think about it, you're like, well, what the fuck? Says my head looks like an ass. That fuck.
I'd probably get more mad when someone like when I remember one time, I don't remember why he was trying to be light and he would like somebody at my back like this goes like almost probably 7 or 8 years back, but like I remember one time at my restaurant job. Someone just trying to be jokingly, but almost like, call me a dum-dum. I was like, don't you ever call me a fucking dum-dum. It's one of those things, like, I was like, because it was more of just like, it's such a stupid fucking, like, are we in the 3rd grade? No, fuck 3rd grade. Are we, like, in kindergarten?
But it's almost more offensive. Like, that word right there, it's two light words, but tied together. That's worse than being like, hey, stop being a fuck-up. Like, if you do that, you'd be like, oh, yeah. Okay, whatever. But it's like, stop being a dum-dum. You're like, fucking call me a dum-dum. Who the fuck's a dum-dum?
I think
Who's
it's
holding
the words,
the fucking butcher knife right now? Who's gonna fucking chop your fucking head off?
Well, it was also one of those. It was like one of those things. Like he misunderstood what I was saying, and I knew what I was talking about. I'm not going to get into it, but then like he says, "Right over here, you dumb dumb." I'm not. First off, don't call me fucking dumb dumb. Secondly, it was like
this thing. I'll be like, don't you ever.
Well, that's even. Yeah, I don't know. It's just one of those things. I think there's something about when someone is A, insulting your intelligence. B, they don't flat out call you a dumbass or an idiot. They say like the most like, you stupid head. Like, what the fuck you call me? There's something about like the PG version of it, which is just so much more infuriating, you know?
Yeah, no, I definitely understand. That's why I almost even kind of I almost like those kind of like, I guess the kids swear words or whatever of ye olden days, like because they almost make me laugh almost more, and they can be more creative if you get into it. They can also be kind of cheap, and if you use the same ones over and over, like lose their like meaning, but. There's something special about that, like that almost like Stand By Me, like bunch of kids just talking fucking trash to each other at 10 years old.
Well, even Stand By Me, they're all talking. They're flat out like calling each other like asshole and cocksucker the whole time, basically the whole time. Your dad's a fucking loon. Don't call my dad a loon, you fucking cocksucker! He's dragging him away, and he's like the wild kid the whole time, The kid with the fucking glasses is the one you got to look out for in that fucking movie.
Or it's like, I think it's like a Monster Squad where there's like the fat fuck friend that's kind of there that like I can't remember exactly why they sort of like they allow him to kind of go because I don't know if I can't remember if he's the rich kid or whatnot, but they're always just calling him like fucking it's like those like light insult words the whole time, like kind of like. Pretty much point out his weight every once in a while, or just saying how he's a fuck up, or this, but like in those kids' words.
Yeah,
and it's like literally he's more like, oh, I get friends to hang out with, but really they're like, oh, well, you're only here because your dad's got a fucking TurboGrafx 16 or whatever,
something like that.
Well, that movie's like 86,
yeah.
So it's like no, I guess the only thing they'd have is your dad's got a Atari 7800.
Did Shane Black write that one?
I think he might have. I think so. That's a great fucking movie. I haven't seen it in a while.
Monster Squad?
It's like the Zombies Ate My Neighbors of movies. Like
I like that one, but it's also one of those movies that I hear like I like it, but I almost hear about it so much. I'm kind of like, there's, I don't know. Maybe if I didn't grow up with it. I watched it retroactively.
Yeah,
so.
well, I never heard about it for like the longest time, and I never heard anybody really talk about it and so on. I think maybe it's like probably one of those recent ones because nowadays people always do that thing like whatever the one that was not nearly as popular, like then they sort of blow it out of proportion as time goes on.
Yeah, it was between Lethal Weapon 1 and Lethal Weapon 2.
Yeah,
Monster Squad. He did it, yeah. And I like that movie. Don't get me wrong. Not that I dislike that movie, but you hear about... that's when I was listening to a lot of like retro movie podcasts for a while, and whenever they came up to the 80s, they'd always have to talk about Monster Squad for a second. I'm like, can we talk about... Or like, Monster Squad or like...
Goonies or something.
The Warriors.
Well, yeah. Well, that's the other thing. It's like the Warriors almost like create so much of this look into this. You know, this movie's almost like the Warriors, where it's like has a great look to it. There's all kinds of things like that. It's just missing like the action part.
Well, even like this, actually, Warriors kind of ties around to that because the thing about, because you know, you think back into like the '90s, and there is a lot of those Urban Decay, brawler video games, and a lot of that came from, and the Warriors came from this too. It came from, like, I want to say New York was so bad in, like, the rough parts of it, and they weren't sure, like, well, shit, if New York is this bad right now, because we have whole, like, blocks that are just abandoned and just have druggies hanging out there. We don't even really go over there anymore. If it's that bad right now, what's it going to be in the future? So movies like The Warriors and other things like that were kind of expanding and playing with that idea. And video games like Streets of Rage, Final Fight, and Double Dragon ran with it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's like, you know, it's just like Escape from New York, things like that. Or there's even there's that movie that has Flea in it called Suburbia, where it's in like Los Angeles, and it's just a bunch about like punk rock homeless kids just living in these like abandoned neighborhoods that were built like in the 50s, but now nobody's there, so it's just totally abandoned. Wild dogs run free and murder people and so on like that. So there was, I think, just like that chaos just on the other side of town always in like a lot of those major cities, which probably still there today. It's just maybe they block things out a little bit easier. I mean, I know New York cleaned itself up better and so on, but I bet you if you looked hard enough, you could still find those areas.
Yeah. Well, it's also kind of like, you know, you look at something like Taxi Driver, where it's like, if this is what Times Square looks like, then what's it look like in this shitty part of like where this shitty part where no one lives at anymore, you know? So now Times Square looks like fucking Disney World or whatever. But yeah. But going back to that though, I think, well, what was the example I was going to make? We were talking about these games and movies that were inspired by that time. Well, yeah, I mean, I could see, you know, I can see them trying to pull a lot of inspiration from that, and maybe like unwillingly, like not even real. I think things that come out today don't even realize that. I mean, I'll be honest, I didn't realize it till I did a little bit more. I was curious about the Warriors, and I was looking more into that. Like, oh, that's what's happening around that time? Okay. That kind of brings it around full circle and kind of explains why you suddenly had a lot of these movies in the late 90s, late 80s, early 90s, with this emphasis on like a crumbling city and all that. But the original Double Dragon even took place. It's funny you mentioned that whole thing. So, what's it called? Suburbicon?
Suburbia.
Suburbia?
Suburbicon was that weird like George Clooney movie.
Matt Damon movie. Yeah. Suburbia, it's funny you mentioned that because this movie takes place in Los Angeles, but the game I think took place in New York.
Yeah, I think that's exactly kind of how it was and so on. And I mean, this one was also utilizing like the earthquake thing because, you know, just, you know, only like, what was it, 89 or whatever, there was that major earthquake and it kind of like cracked, you know, lots of Los Angeles and cracked San Francisco's, you know, giant stadium and all that stuff during the World Series. So like, I think after that moment, that stirred a lot of people writing kind of those types of stories.
That's kind of funny how that something like that can make that effect, because people look back on those things now like, why do they add this plot point in there? Well, there's this theory. I mean, because that's where, I mean, I don't think it was a new theory by then, but like there's like an interview with the directors of the Mario Brothers movie, and they're saying like, we read this theory that it was a asteroid that killed the dinosaurs. I'm like, I thought that was common knowledge by now, but okay, you know. So and like but that's something, but like that, and like you said, the earthquake thing had an effect. And then you even look at something like, you know, you had suddenly a lot of like tidal wave into the world movies leading up to 2012, or whenever global warming came up, like when we were just starting to talk about global warming, like, you know, well, I mean, a couple of Roland Emmerich's movies, Day After
Independence
Tomorrow,
Day.
And, well, Independence Day was separate of that because of aliens, but I mean, 2012 though, that whole like, yeah.
Yeah, no, well, I see what you mean. Like, yeah, because you got kind of those and so on. And maybe that even leads in with those, like, sort of disaster films and so on, because that was kind of a big 90s thing, too. You know, I'm trying to think of which one would have been, because it seems like that's like the second half of the 90s is where all those big disaster ones come. I guess Twister would have been the same year as this movie. No, Twister was 95, I think. So sounds so weird. Like, when you think of Double Dragon, I'm thinking like a Double Dragon Twister, like, double feature. Like, what do those movies have together? Well, you know, kind of like world-ending type stuff, you know.
Well, this movie, it's sometimes weird. You can look at an old movie, and some movies look way older than something that, like, I don't know, like Jurassic Park. I can tell it's a movie that came out in the 90s, but it doesn't look like a movie that came out in 94, right? 94, 93? 93. There are movies that came out in 96 that look older than Jurassic Park.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Because the thing about Jurassic Park, I think, because it has a very, like really, probably the only thing that gives away Jurassic Park is technically the vehicles, but even the vehicles they use, they use like Jeeps and so on. And Jeeps don't change very often anyways, so you can't really go, it's not like, using other cars where it's like, oh, well, that's clearly like that year or that model or whatnot. And, you think of like Alan Grant, it's not like he's dressed in like a flannel that's just like all tie-dyed out and whatnot. And he's, you know what I mean? Like, he's dressed in something that you could pretty much wear today and nobody would really question you,
Yeah, and like Twister, that would look 90s as hell, but this movie looks like, this movie came out, what, 94 or so? What was it, 94 this one came 94.
Out? Well, even Twister, it's like, the characters are all kind of dressed normal and so on like that. It's not like, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like when you have, like, the real, like, 90s look, I mean, don't get me wrong, like, I like that, though, but where you got the punk rock, like, kind of mixed-match hair and multicolored, and it looks like you're ready to go to, like, a Pauly Shore movie.
Like but then you get other ones where it doesn't look like, I don't know, like, this movie looks more like it came out in the late 80s, early 90s to me. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. No, I
mean, I guess 94 still is early 90s, but even earlier than that, like 91 or 92 even to me. But, it is what it is. It's not like I said, this movie, it doesn't really hold up to me. I don't really feel the need to watch it again. But at the same time, if you've never seen it, I think it's worth watching. And I think I like the aesthetic look of it, and I wish more movies would kind of utilize that. I could actually think of a movie doesn't do the whole dystopian post-apocalyptic thing, but it's trying to kind of run off this a little bit. I didn't finish it. I want to finish it. Have you heard of the movie Guns Akimbo?
I started that movie, and I could not get into it. I got about, like, 35 minutes or 40 minutes into it, and I was just like, nope, not for me.
Not for you. The one where he gets the guns stapled to his hands?
Yeah. No, I felt like that reminded me like a movie where like it should have been things I was into, but like it just felt like someone trying way too hard. And it just it was that, and then it was just filled with like kind of like so dumb that it wasn't like fun cheesy like Double Dragon. I felt it was just dumb.
I'll say that when I was watching it, I was enjoying it. I wasn't like head over heels in love with it, but I was enjoying it. I didn't finish it yet, but there's the whole thing they had where the bad guys looked like they were out of like a 90s video game, but it was almost kind of like, they even made a joke like, you guys dressed like your bosses out of Streets of Rage or something like that.
No, I remember that. And that's what I mean. It's like it had stuff, and even like I will say, it had good action scenes and so on in it. But it was one of those ones that I almost never turn a movie off. It was literally, I got like 40 minutes into it, I'm like, no.
I'm surprised you turned that one off. I mean, not saying that I thought you were going to like be head over heels in love with it, but I'm surprised that like it was that bad. It was, I know that there's a little bit, like, there's some things that are a little too tongue-in-cheek and winking at the camera about it. I think the other thing is because the main character, I mean, I wasn't head over heel, like I said, wasn't in love with the movie, but I was kind of interested in the concept and where it was going. There's, like, I guess that he's such a fuck-up, and he's trying to...
Yeah.
He's just such a fuck-up, and he's just such, like, I don't know. I'm kind of a little over some of that type of stuff, and I get the whole thing, like the fuck-up in the situation beyond his control. But that being said, I was like, can't we just watch a movie on the girl? Because the girl seems to know she's the fuck she's doing.
Yeah, I think that's the other thing is like when you get a character that just screws up like way too often and just tripping over his own dick everywhere he goes. Like I don't know. Like to me, it's like that becomes almost more. It was like it becomes frustrating. Like I don't feel like I want to see this character like make it. It's like you're making this underdog like way too much. Like beyond he's not even an underdog anymore. You know what I mean? It's just like he's got nothing going for him.
I'll say I do like the aesthetic of the movie though. I like the kind of vibe. It kind of reminds me of Crank. I think another a thing close to like maybe that's kind of not the post-apocalyptic thing, but kind of trying to go off that non-stop crazy kind of bright, vibrant aesthetic. Something the Crank movies definitely.
No. Yeah, those are always fantastic and so on. Yeah, that's how it was. Like Guns Akimbo, it had stuff in there that I'm not saying that. Yeah, there was stuff in there that was interesting and good and so on. And I felt like maybe 10 years prior, something like that, if there wasn't other things that kind of did that sort of thing, it might have stood out a little bit more. But it was just by this point, just like it felt like it was trying too hard. That was my thing. I just felt like it felt kind of phony. Like it didn't feel like it was real, and that's where it sort of lost me at. Like I don't know. Like once it felt like where Double Dragon doesn't like it just is what it is, and maybe that's like.
Well, it feels like they're like, this is cool, right? Like, it really feels like, you could say that, like, it's not, like, you could say that it's not, you could say it's cheesy and over the top, but at the same time, it feels like adults trying to make something for kids. Like, the kids like this, right? Like, where I guess something like Guns Akimbo, even though I didn't really have problems with it, but that many problems with it at least, I could see, like, I haven't got to the end, so maybe my mind will change by the end of it. But I could see that being kind of like, oh, it's so, like, look, there's a Sonic the Hedgehog reference. Oh, look at these, like, texting and Twitter references and jokes like that. Because, whatever was on the screen would pop up on the...
Because it
like,
had, it literally had that feeling like, in a sense, an adult was trying to make it for, like, kids. Like, it just...
But that's almost, like, what Double Dragon is.
Well, and granted, I know that's what that is, too. But, like, for some reason... But I feel like... That's the thing though, is that's adult making it for kids, but it's not like wink wink haha, like it's not like that. That one just feels like it's adult. Like he seriously thinks he's doing, or he or she or whatever is seriously thinking that they're doing like what needs to be done, and it's just like that's how it is. Where Guns Akimbo just felt like an old person coming in like, this is what the kids are into right nowadays, but like, it's funny, it's just this Twitter stuff and this weird goofy stuff, and look, he's got like, bear slippers on and so on, and he's not wearing pants, I'm weird, I'm goofy, I'm Newgrounds, like, I don't know, it just felt like, I had that thing, it's like, not like I'm a kid, but almost that thing where like, there's that adult that walks into a room, like when, you're in like grammar school or like high school or something like that, and they're trying to like, come in there and be like, hey, I'm hip, I'm cool, and you're just like, whoa, man, stay the fuck back. I don't trust you. I don't know what you're going after, but I see you're looking for something here. You're trying to like ease your way in. He's like, don't worry, guys. I brought a GameCube. It's gonna be cool. Like, whoa, why do you bring a GameCube? I don't trust him. Don't touch the GameCube. There's something wrong with it. I've seen this movie before.
What's he doing bringing a GameCube here? It's 2019. Why's he got a GameCube?
Well, I was thinking like our day, back in our school days when we were young and I don't know.
A car with tinted windows pulls up, the door slides open. We got a GameCube. You want a GameCube?
The realist.
You got to get in the car.
Most likely.
Well, I got curious since we're talking about this. I'm looking up the guy now. He's mostly a special effects guy that's worked on a bunch of movies, but Guns Akimbo's his second movie. His first movie is a horror action comedy with a metal theme called Deathgasm.
Oh, yeah, because I remember, I think somebody I knew watched that movie back in the day, because I remember when that one kind of came out. And then I remember like being described to me, I'm like, It had that same feeling where it's like, sounds like it's trying kind of hard, like...
What gave it away from the name?
Yeah, I think the name kind of does it. But I don't know. I'm not saying that, like, here's the thing. Somebody out there probably likes Guns Akimbo and so on like that. It just wasn't for me. Like, I felt to me it was like, just especially like, I was like, no. This.
Yeah. I wouldn't mind finishing it. I'm just saying, and I wasn't trying to be like, dude, you would totally love that movie. Because but at the same time, I'm just thinking, like, that's probably the most recent thing I can think of that is kind of similar, like, as far as, like, I know it's in a more meta kind of way, but a little bit more of, like, that over-the-top kind of Urban Decay, crazy villains that look like they're in, like, a brawler video game kind of look.
Yeah, we'll even have, like, that thing what was it like? It was like a video game thing that was in there where it's like, you got to go off and hunt this person down or whatever.
It was like a live death tournament where they had drones following people, and he was somebody who was always talking shit on the people that participated, and then they found him, and then they made him part of it. So now, while you got all these people that are actual killers, this guy got thrown into the middle.
Yeah, that's right. That's kind of how it sort of was. And I was thinking, it's like your main character's like a troll, and you're like, why am I gonna like that guy?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Can't he just be fucking regular Harry Potter? Like, why does he have to try to play other characters?
You think the one time you think you want him to go like, Patronus, whatever, and trying to like, that's actually a little more masculine right now.
Yeah, let him Patronus with a gun in his hand, then I might watch it.
No, but no, as far as Double Dragon goes, going back to that, went on that tangent there. I think Double Dragon, I don't really think it's a good movie, but I think it's an interesting movie. And like I said, I would like to see more things successfully try and take that aesthetic or that, Streets of Rage aesthetic and try to put that in a like modern day TV series or movie or something like that.
Yeah, I totally agree there with that too. I think Double Dragon's one of those ones, like, to me, it's always going to be nostalgic. It's just one of those early day video game movies. Takes me back to the 90s every time I watch it. It's fun. It's got a cool look and so on like that. Just needs a little bit better martial arts. I mean, I know it's not like it's going to be like the director's cut's going to come out and be like, oh yeah, by the way, we did have all this stuff. Universal didn't let us put it in there. No, I know it's not going to be like that, but it's still fun. I think if you go into it with an open mind, I think that's the key thing. So many people want to go in these movies with just like arms crossed, like, oh, old video game movies, they're the worst. But it's like, no, you got to get yourself out of that. Like, you're going in there, it's a fucking party, you're going to have a good time, have a laugh, take you back, go back in time to the olden days when things were more innocent and, you could just call someone a butthead and it was okay. No one got offended, You don't
have to worry about them saying, if you ever call me that again, I'll fucking kill you. No, I'll say, even me going into this, I was going into it with like not even like, oh, I can't wait to shit all over this. Maybe it's gonna be a little cheesy, but it's gonna be fun. But it didn't. I was like, oh yeah, this didn't hit me the way I remembered it hitting me. But at the same time, I wonder if like, because the thing is, Double Dragon is not a franchise that's remembered as much as Mario Brothers. So I'm wondering, because partially because of the Super Mario Brothers movie archive. They keep digging stuff up and finding new things on the movie like years later.
We need the Double Dragon arc.
Well, I'm wondering if this has that, because, it's not as big as Mario Brothers, so I'm wondering if there is all this crazy stuff. And I wish I knew Paul Dini worked on this, because, I didn't sit down and have coffee with him or anything, but I met Paul Dini one time at, like, a book signing, so I would have liked to, like, ask him if I knew that he did this, like, what was in that draft? He'd be like, I wrote so many things I don't fucking remember.
You just bring him by your VHS copy of Double Dragon. You have him autograph it for you. Be like, you sure you don't have something bad? No, Double Dragon. Don't stop autographing that Batman thing. Autograph that one. He's like, I really just kind of wrote one script idea and then they toss it aside and put my name on there as script supervisor or story by. And I'm like, I don't give a fuck. Your name's in the credits, isn't it? Yeah, sign the fucking movie.
Like how sheepish he is right there. It's just one of those things like, well, it's not like, I wonder how many people come to him with their VHS copy of Double Dragon. Like, not their copies of Harley Quinn, Mad Love, or even like any of his Batman run, or like Black Canary and Zatanna just coming in like,
and all angry and aggressive too.
Double Dragon. It's a guy looking like the fucking dude with the fucking nut sack on the back of his neck.
Yeah, no, that'd be awesome. But yeah, no, there's. I feel like there would be some interesting factoids if you dug deep into this film and kind of pulled out some other stuff. It does need maybe an archive. Maybe there is somebody out there who is mining this information. You never know. There's so much stuff around, but I think, as always, it's a strong historical movie. It's weird to look. This is like the one where like any like older person than us is like, you're putting this in the historical category, like Citizen Kane. Like, yes. As far as video game movies goes, this is like on like the fucking Mount Rushmore of like early video game. It's like Mario Brothers, Double Dragon, Street Fighter, and Mortal Kombat. If you really want to, you could throw Wing Commander up there too. If you just.
Ooh, no, we don't even gotta throw a Ring Commander up there.
Just saying, it's there as those ones. So
Freddie Prinze Jr. right there next to like fucking like Bob Hoskins.
So it's like, you gotta have those movies. I feel like you gotta respect your elders as far as those movies kind of come, because you don't get to where you are. You don't get to the Sonic the Hedgehog movie without the fucking Double Dragon movie. Don't ask how it gets there. It just does. But yeah,
those who laid the foreground for it.
Yeah, Billy and Jimmy they're fucking laying pipe so that's can come.
Well, one of them is. Depends who finishes that final fight.
Yeah, exactly. Well, even at the very end, it's just like they got Bobo just there driving away and whatnot. They're like, oh shit, I thought you were like mind controlling him. Oh fuck, we just let him drive. You don't know what he's hopped up on.
What if they just like did a total like Poultrygeist thing and he just drives right off the fucking like the fucking on ramp and you see the car explode right as the Huey and Lewis like thugs go walking down the street like, oh yeah, don't even acknowledge it.
Yeah, exactly, like one of those ones. And then there's a rap song that plays that just repeats the whole story of the movie in the credits. I was really bummed there wasn't one of those.
Double what? Double what? Dragon. 2 boys. One's Hawaiian. One's white.
One's named Jimmy. One's a Billy. They're gonna get into a fight.
Now you know why we never like had. Now you know why we never started a hip hop group. But yeah,
somebody's got to create that Double Dragon theme. But yeah, beyond all that good stuff, check that classic movie out. You can watch it on Amazon Prime at the moment. That's one place you'll find it. It's also on some other ones too. But go to oldmanorange.com for more podcast, comic books like Pizza Boys, old animations, and that fun kind of stuff out there. I'm Spencer Scott Holmes.
and I'm Ryan Tunningham.
And we'll see you some other time.
Later, folks.